Thanks so much, and thank you so much for attending Cisco Live. I have to tell you, I think this is my 7th Cisco Live Europe, and they've been in all sorts of interesting places, but for the last 3 years, we've had Cisco Live Europe here in Barcelona, and I love Barcelona. And I feel like I've gotten to know the city. Last night, I went to a restaurant I had been to before. It's like I'm a local. And every year, I get to take a little bit of a look at the city, and just about every year I make it to La Sagrada Familia, which I think is the most famous landmark in Barcelona, but I don't really know that much about the city, so maybe that's not true, but it's my most famous landmark. And I think anyone who's an engineer, anyone who comes from an engineering background, has to have some reverence for this thing. People have been paying money to come and look at an unfinished church for the better part of 100 years. That is amazing product marketing. That is phenomenal. And there's something brilliant about the fact that the most famous thing about this church, about the most famous landmark in Barcelona, its most well-known attribute is that it is yet unfinished. And that's always been intriguing to me, to get a glimpse at what the work is that they're doing now, how it is being improved every day. And to be honest, maybe I'm a little bit disappointed when they told me that they're about to be finished. In 6 years, they plan on finishing this thing. There was something special about it being unfinished, and I think in a lot of ways, it talks to the work that we do. I don't think anyone here building the technology and the infrastructure for schools and businesses and governments around Europe, I don't think any of you imagine that one day you will be finished. You will have deployed all of the technology and no work will be left to do. And that's exactly how we feel about Meraki at Cisco. Meraki is yet unfinished, and it is not meant to be finished. Gaudi worked till the day he died, I guess got hit by a bus, which is unfortunate. He worked till the day he died on a project he knew he would not see completed in his lifetime. I hope I'm working on that same project. I hope there's no way that the work that we do in all of your organizations, the work we do at Meraki, that will ever reach completion. It's designed to be incomplete. It's why we focus so much on our mission, because the Meraki product is not about reaching a destination, it's about staying on track, on ensuring that we are always progressing in the right direction, and we are always making our products more valuable to your teams. And I believe the number one thing that Meraki can bring to this industry, to networking and IT infrastructure, it is to bring the value proposition of simplicity to an industry that has been obsessed with power for too long. If we can simplify powerful technology, then we can free passionate people, we can free your teams to work on the things that matter most, to focus on your mission and your passion, to contribute to your organizations in the most powerful way. If we can simplify powerful technologies, we can free you to work on the missions you are really there to drive. And maybe, more importantly, with the innovation of technology and how far we come, not just free you to work on that, but help you drive those missions directly. At Meraki, for years now, we have been focused on this idea of simplicity, but we always knew this was not the last thing we would ever work on. It was supposed to be the direction we were going. And so it has evolved over time. Now we think about adding value propositions of security and intelligence to our platform to build the simplest, secure, most intelligent platform for the digital workplace. And our focus is still simplicity, but we know by making this platform secure, we can make it simpler. By making it more intelligent, we can drive AI and machine learning algorithms in order to make that platform simpler. We can simplify your operations, build you more reliable, secure, and intelligent systems, and it is still a journey. What will the next large value proposition we take at Meraki be? I don't know. I don't know, because this idea is still unfinished, and it is meant to be. Meraki started out shipping wireless equipment, and over the years, after Wi-Fi, We expanded the portfolio to include campus switching, UTM security, and SD-WAN. We've expanded into mobile device management, AI-based insight and assurance technology, and finally, the Meraki MV, the Meraki camera portfolio, our first IoT product. And I assure you, there is real simplicity in managing all of this equipment from a single dashboard, but at the same time, this list is yet incomplete. There is more infrastructure that we can simplify with the Meraki dashboard, that we can add to this platform. We're going to need a new graphic because we're out of space on the slide, but this list has to be unfinished, and we have to continue to expand. Meraki has always been cloud managed, 100% cloud managed. And I do get questions about if Meraki will consider an on-premise solution, and I usually say no. But I'm trying to remind myself that Meraki is unfinished. Maybe one day we will learn that the best way to simplify technology for your teams is to provide something like that. But I have to tell you, we're not doing that. So it's not in the cards right now. But every decision has to be questioned over time. We have Meraki Cloud, a best-in-class enterprise cloud, delivering a 4.9 SLA, best-in-class GDPR-based security and privacy controls for Europe, as well as a global cloud and a China cloud for multinational corporations, and of course, Meraki Dashboard. And we've always had Meraki Dashboard. All Meraki products are managed from the web. We're going to take a look at it in a minute, using the most intuitive interface possible. But just a few years ago, we realized we had to continue to evolve that. We had to expand the way we interact with the Meraki products, and that's why we partnered with DevNet to launch an entire suite of Meraki APIs to allow for automation and technology partnership, to open up our platforms to build into the digitization systems that you are all building and evolving for your organizations, and to partner with software groups building applications on top of this platform. And it was a tough decision because we had been focusing for so many years on the Meraki dashboard, but we had to understand that this concept is unfinished. We have to be willing to take the next step to move forward in order to serve our customers better. And I think a lot about this idea that our true north is this simplicity mission, simplifying powerful technology. But I think anyone who's in business and understands that it's not a destination, it's a direction, you have to also consider the fact that our users and our customers, that has to be the tiller. That has to keep us on track. It has to make sure that what we are building doesn't just serve our mission, but it helps you serve yours. And it's why I think customer examples are the lessons that our engineering teams learn, that our product teams learn. We've had a lot of really interesting deployments with Von Ord. They're a marine technology, marine ingenuity, they call themselves, organization. And some of the most amazing engineering work I've ever seen. You can see there's an engineering theme here. I think they're most known for large-scale dredging operations. They actually dig up the bottom of harbors and move millions and millions of kilos of silt and dirt to make sure harbors still run. It's an amazingly sophisticated organization, and they have construction sites and many, as you can see, vehicles, ships that are part of their operation. And now they use Meraki across their franchise. I think what's really amazing is that they were able to drive down how much time was spent setting up these networks because their construction sites are very fluid. They have to be set up and torn down. They were able to deploy this stuff very, very simply, despite very, very sophisticated locations like on a high performance engineering ship like this. But I think what was the most unexpected result wasn't how quickly it rolled out, how easily they moved the sites. It was how it changed the conversation between the users and the technology groups at Von Ord. Specifically, dozens and dozens of calls every week that came in because a site network was too slow, because the network wasn't performing, because the engineers weren't getting the performance and the latency that they needed. Those conversations transformed into a conversation about how much social media and streaming video was being used on these ships and using all of the bandwidth and preventing the actual work from being done. Discussions that started with the network isn't performing transitioned to this idea of the IT group already knowing how the network was being used, and in some ways wasted, although social media is not a waste, so maybe it was being used wisely there. But finding ways to control that with this new information, driving new types of bandwidth shaping policies and bandwidth control so that mission-critical business could always be done, and those calls could finally be a thing of the past. We work very closely with McLaren, and I'm very proud of this partnership. McLaren's mission is very clear: to win. This is a company who's designed to win. I want Meraki to be a company whose mission is to win. That's pretty interesting. But it's actually more than an F1 racing group, although they're best known for that. They won their first major race back in the 60s, and ever since then have been really dominating in a lot of ways this motorsport. But they're also an engineering firm. They do outsourced engineering for very complicated, ultra-high-performing engineering problems. And of course, now they also have a business selling ultra-high-end cars, which look more like spaceships, practically. But this is a group that is maniacally focused on performance, on power. And to be honest, when we first started talking to McLaren, I was surprised to be in those conversations because I know that they are about the highest performing technology in the world. And while Meraki's technology is highest performing in a lot of ways, it's not what we're known for. I know that Meraki is known for the simplest technology possible, but it opened my eyes to hear how they talked about the technology. It has to be high performing, ultra high bandwidth. A race car coming off the track in one weekend generates 1.5 terabytes of data. They have to pull that off the car and transmit it back to headquarters for analysis every single week. It has to be high performing, and it is. But the reason they found that Meraki was the best solution for them was because every week they have to bring up an entire office at a new race site, and they have to run operations for that week for the race at the end of the weekend. And to be pulling up the network and tearing it down, they needed this combination of real power and real simplicity. And without simplicity, the power was useless. They could not leverage the power unless it was simple enough to deliver fresh every single week with very high reliability. If the McLaren race car doesn't race that week because they couldn't bring the network up, I don't want to be a part of that conversation. So I'm glad I never have been. And I think that sort of brings me to this idea, the first bit of new technology I wanted to talk about today is probably the best example we've ever had at Meraki of pairing together power and simplicity. And it's called adaptive policy. We just launched our newest switch, the most powerful Meraki switch ever. It's called the Meraki 390, MS390. And for the first time ever, we've taken Cisco silicon and a Cisco hardware platform, and we've taken the power of that and matched it with the Meraki dashboard, the simplicity of dashboard, and we've really delivered power and simplicity together. The most powerful access switch on the market, bar none. But I think the real value here is in how that power can drive simplicity. And there's a journey that we've all been on, and I'm sure you will all feel the same pain I have. At the beginning, when I was first designing networks, my first job in networking was in 1999, we seemed to build very simple networks. VLANs were obviously an interesting technology, but for the most part, every site had a single segment, and I was able to run my entire network on a single segment with a firewall or probably more likely an MPLS backhaul to the core. And all of the network complexity would be held at the core, but most of my campus and my branch was a flat network. And then, to be honest, my security team arrived and told me that different groups in my organization require different security policies. And I didn't realize at the time what a pivotal point in the history of networking that was. Because the only way that I had to deliver a different security policy to different parts of my network, the only way I could do that was to segment my network in IP segment, in VLAN. And then I could configure my firewalls and my security appliances for different policies per VLAN. The day that happened felt very natural. The security teams built a more sophisticated and more powerful security suite that required different groups to have different policies. And the engineering teams, we had a way, the networking teams, we had a way to segment the network and apply different policies, and that was by VLAN segmentation. And so it felt okay. But in fact, that was a real fundamental shift in the way networks were built. And all of a sudden, IP segmentation and VLAN segmentation became dual purpose. You had to organize your VLANs so that IP segments could be routed, and at the same time, you also had to segment your IP segments for security purposes, and this exploded the number of VLANs required in an organization. I wound up with a VLAN for every group at every site, and the security rules needed to manage that became NP complete. It wasn't until years later that I started to realize how painful this had become. At very large networks, we found ourselves in a situation that adding one security group meant adding VLANs in every single site, and in many times, changing the way routing would work for an entire organization. It brought us to a screeching halt. It made our network still powerful and very high performing, but in a lot of ways brittle. We were afraid to change them. We were even afraid to implement better security policy because it meant massive network change. And that just can't be. We need a way to be able to adapt and evolve our security policies without complicating the network. Better yet, I want to get back to the simple network I had in 1999 without a VLAN segment for every different group of users and devices and logins the world around, and that's where adaptive policy comes in. With adaptive policy, I can get back to my simple network, designed to be as easily routed as possible, and I can layer on top of that security groups using Cisco's proprietary security group tagging, available only on Cisco switches, and it allows us to do micro-segmentation by group, to apply different security policies to every group within our sites without complicating the network. We can deliver both power and simplicity. And if you do it in the Meraki way, by applying your groups globally, once you set up your different groups and group policy in a single site, you can then roll that out across your organization to tens or hundreds or thousands of sites in just a few clicks. And SGT, security group tagging, isn't brand new. We've been doing this at Cisco as part of TrustSec for years. But by making this simple, we can drive the dream of not just delivering this technology simply by using dashboard and making it as easy as possible, but actually simplifying networks back to what they were really designed to be and layer security on top of it. And I really want to take a look at this in a demo. So if we could switch to the demo, and we'll take just a really quick look. My demo team, here we go. My demo team has built out this network for us, and he told me it's supposed to be a chain of burger stores. So that's why it has a burger up there. His last name's also Burger, so I don't think that's the real reason it has that. But this is just a simple test network. It has 3 sites, and the first one is designed as a legacy site. So here's store 1 in Denver in the US. And if I wanted to set up segmentation here at store 1, I could go into my security appliance, and very easily, I could set up the different VLANs required to segment into the different groups. This is the old way. Here are the different segments, and you're all familiar with this. I've got a segment for IoT and a segment for employees, et cetera. And then on the Meraki dashboard, it's pretty easy to go into the firewall rules and be able to craft different policies for different group. And here are the different policies, and you can see there's comments. Management to terminals is not allowed, terminals to IoT is not allowed, et cetera. And as the sites get bigger, and as the number of groups increase, then this complexity gets harder and harder to manage. And we need more sophisticated rules and automation. And the complexity can become crippling. It's why most systems don't print out all the rules in a row. It just looks crazy, right? But we can do better, and that's what adaptive policy is about, and that's why we've shifted the Meraki switching roadmap to a Cisco Silicon strategy. Here is what a new and modern site will look like. Store 2, which is in San Francisco. Of course, all the firewall stuff still works, but we don't have to use that anymore. Instead, we can go to our adaptive policy screen. And you can see Adaptive policy isn't held in the individual network, but it's held organization-wide. So these groups are true across my thousands of sites, or in this case, just 3. I have unknown, I have Meraki internal employee. I'm going to just add a group for IoT devices. Oops. I was told this keyboard was crazy, and they're right. OK. So here I've got a new IoT group. And that group now is able to, did it add? Sorry, I'm going to try again. I'm going to learn how to use this keyboard. But anyway, I can add a group. I assure you, I could add a group. And if I wanted to, I could go back. Alex Berger is going to add the group for me. Oh, come on, man. It wasn't just me. All right. Anyway, don't worry about it. So I can add groups. I assure you, I could add a group. And then I have to be able to assign that group using authentication. Every device has to be assigned a group, just like we would assign a VLAN. Now, many of you use ICE to assign policies and VLANs in your infrastructure. Of course, you can do that now. You can assign a group, an SGT group, an adaptive policy group using ICE. But if you wanted to, you could also have a VLAN set up for a default adaptive policy or a switch port, and it's just the same way you would have done that assignment in the past. In wireless, I can go to access control. And now, in addition to setting a VLAN, I can also set up an adaptive policy group, and I can pick from one of my groups. I can do the same thing with a switch port. I can look at every single switch port in this entire site, whether it be 100 or 1,000. I could pick one of these devices, like this terminal device, and now I can pick an adaptive policy group to assign to that, as well as just having the VLAN assigned. And that gives me real power, real ability to set not just how the packets are routed, but what tag, what security policy will be applied. And this is the most important part. Organization-wide, I can go in and set up microsegmentation. So now, by switching to my policy page, I can see which groups are allowed to communicate with which other groups. And I can set this globally across my entire organization using secure group tagging and the power of Cisco Silicon. So if all of my terminals today, the terminals are only allowed to speak to unknown devices, untagged devices. Everything else is blocked. But if I wanted terminals, for example, to be able to communicate to other terminals or to employees, I could push that change, and off to the races I would be. And now terminals can speak to other terminals and other employees. And I can control this all globally, and I can do this using adaptive policy, using microsegmentation at a global scale. It gives you an incredible amount of power. And we can use this power to simplify our networks and to use fewer features to do more. And I think that's really the dream of Meraki, to simplify powerful technology. And we can go back to the slides for just a minute. So the next thing I want to talk about is the Meraki Gateway. And there's not too many slides here, so oops. So don't worry. This is the new Meraki Gateway, and we've just launched this 3 months ago, 2.5 months ago. And it's a very simple device. It's a square. But look how beautiful it is. It's so simple. It's beautiful. And I am really proud of this product. And in a lot of ways, it does something that's very simple. It's a cellular gateway. It runs LTE. You could plug it into any router, whether it be an SD-WAN router from Meraki on our MX platform, or an ISR, or a vEdge appliance from Tela, or even a competitor's products, which I know none of you would ever use, but you could. And you could turn into a next-gen wireless WAN device using a Meraki Gateway, an MG21. It has internal antennas, but there's an external antenna system. It's designed to be the simplest to deploy wireless WAN device in the world. It really is incredibly beautiful. I have it mounted in my house, and I love it. But maybe more than that, it's powered by the Meraki dashboard. The real power of this thing isn't that it's a great LTE gateway and a NAT device, and it is. But the power of it is that it gets it inherits 100% functionality from the gateway, from the dashboard rather. And the dashboard gives it real visibility, real historical analysis, real understanding of what's really happening on the cellular network for the first time. And we need that. We have to take this thing to the next level, and we have to make cellular gateways a mission-critical part of how we build WAN networks. Wireless WAN and mobile gateways like this is the future of SD-WAN. Every SD-WAN site is going to have a mobile gateway, at least as a backup device, at least as a backup connection, if not for day zero or primary WAN. And we have to make this mission critical. We have to automate it and control it using our regular networking expertise. And we could jump over to the demo for just another minute. This is a site in San Francisco that we've been running for a while using the Meraki Gateway. And you can see there's a ton of devices on it. We like to test every product at Meraki, so we have a wired fiber connection, you should know. Cisco sprung for it and everything, but we've been running this gateway for a while. And if I pull it up, of course I can set it up, but you'll see in a lot of ways what we've done is leverage the power of Meraki. It looks just like every other Meraki device. I get this historical connectivity graph. I can see that I might have had an outage in the last day or the last week here. Cellular devices don't identify themselves with MAC addresses on their network. They identify themselves with IMEI identifiers. So you can find that here, and if you needed to know that in order to order another SIM card or onboard in your service provider network, it's available on dashboard. But maybe more importantly, and this was just added recently, we have full uplink statistics available for this device. You can see the signal strength is not that great on this device today, and I've got poor signal strength, but I can see what's really happening. I can look at live data across the network on my cellular links, and I could see historical data for the last day or week or month, and I can really understand what's been happening with this cellular connection. Not just the bandwidth and the jitter, the latency and the loss in the bottom here, but the real RF signal strength on my 4G modem. That's RSRP is signal power and signal quality. And I could see signal power and signal quality over time. I can give real feedback to my service provider, to enterprise service provider who's giving you, real SLA over their wireless WAN. And should that SLA not be met, you can give them real data and show them why, right? And we can finally take the power of Meraki and use it to manage wireless WAN, to hold our service providers accountable to their SLA, and to drive wireless WAN into the mission-critical world, maybe not even just as a backup, but as a primary connection over time. I'm incredibly excited about this because I really believe that this is the future of SD-WAN. SD-WAN is going to have to be wirelessly enabled. Now, obviously, this isn't the last Meraki Gateway, mobile gateway we're going to build. This portfolio is certainly unfinished. There's going to be gigabit LTE and 5G after that. There's more historical analysis. The number one request we've had on the Meraki Gateway portfolio has been about alerts, having live alerts whenever the signal strength or quality drops below a certain threshold, whenever jitter is too high, whenever a backup wireless connection might not meet the SLA, should it be called into service. Our customers are looking for alerts, and we're building that stuff right now. Of course, this product is unfinished. And that's really the story of all Meraki products. I get a lot of questions about the Meraki portfolio, especially weeks like Cisco Live. Meraki's come so far. Now that the Wi-Fi portfolio at Meraki is so complete and so powerful, do you think you're done focusing on that and you're going to be moving into other technologies? Are you going to start focusing more of your effort in other places? And of course, we do focus in other places, but the wireless portfolio isn't done or complete. Our Wi-Fi 6 rollouts are just beginning. The concept of wireless health and the analytics and machine learning that can be used to drive troubleshooting and understand what's really happening in our networks, that stuff is just beginning. Our wireless... Can we go back to the demo? One more minute. Our wireless portfolio is far, far from complete. And that's the way it's supposed to be. In fact, the dream of Meraki is that when you buy a Meraki product, as powerful and as great as it is today, that is the worst it will ever be. When you buy that product and install it, that is the worst it will ever be because it will always be improving. We are pushing updates and improvements to this product all the time. And in my last minute, this is the demo I want to show you. This is a very, very long-standing customer, and this is one of our official demo networks at Meraki. And I assure you, this will be the only 802.11n 3 generations old Wi-Fi demo you get at Cisco Live this year. These are the APs on this network. And the newest of them, the newest of these access points, was deployed in 2011, 9 years ago. The newest of them. I know because they're noted in the notes, new deployment, 2011. And these access points have been automatically upgraded every 6 months, every 9 months for the last decade. In fact, our newest and greatest wireless troubleshooting applications run on these access points. I still get historical data and analysis. I get usage statistics, deep packet inspection showing per application-based bandwidth usage, and our wireless health product, the absolute highest end AI-based wireless assurance and wireless troubleshooting product in the market. Wireless health runs on this, the MR12, that's been shipping, that we started shipping more than a decade ago. This one was upgraded just a few months ago on version 25, the newest and greatest Meraki feature. And this MR12, it is still unfinished. We will continue to improve it and roll it out. It's supposed to be unfinished. The portfolio is always getting better, and I can't wait to see what you'll do with what comes next from Meraki. Thank you very much.